What would you say in terms of financial planning and managing capital during these high inflation areas for a company, for a startup? How do you navigate that? Because you're not sure if you'll actually be able to get higher prices. You may lose customers. You may have to increase salaries, run out of cash, or right, basically run out of cash flow. So how would you manage? How do you suggest someone to approach this problem?
See, other ways to plan well during times of high inflation is one of the important ways is do proper financial planning. You know, uh, I mean, in our company, I mean, for a good period of time, especially when not till the U.S. raised its, its interest rates, we used to manage our loan, any kind of loan we have taken between India and U.S. Because India had lower interest rate, U.S. had lower interest rate, and India had higher interest rate. So we had to kind of manage that well to be able to maximize, things for us. And I mean, I'm just giving you one idea of financial planning, a usual cash flow management, all those basic 101. I'm assuming that a company, if it is such in size, they all have those things in place. And I think I mentioned earlier about not having an office when you don't need one, when you can get by with the existing office. Same thing. I mean, any kind of capital expenditure that you have to incur, and you should be very cautious about it during these times, because you know that you don't know when this inflationary cycle is going to end, and whether the business at the other end of it, how will it impact the business. I mean, a lot of people right now in US are holding off their both their capex and opex expenditure, just waiting for election results. And they're not looking at, okay, November 6th, they're saying we'll talk to you now on January 1st. They want to see the whole cycle, how it plays out. There's a lot of uncertainty. Inflation is just one such parameter, and indeed it's a major one. And but people are, I mean, during these times, many companies put all these things in place, these controls in place to make sure they don't take any rash decision which can impact them negatively. And high inflation is also a time for any company to see how they can find newer streams of revenue. And I mean, in our company, we look at, I mean, right after COVID, as you know, I mean, we always look at companies to acquire. So at that time, we found valuations were really high. So we looked at some companies, but we didn't pull the plug. I mean, we didn't move forward with them. We stopped after due diligence because we felt the valuations were very high. Then we waited. Now, as the inflation continued, one thing impact of that was it did impact smaller businesses which didn't have many of these controls in place. So we waited, and we found some now good companies that we can acquire. Now, that will give us, acquiring those companies will give us new stream of revenues. That is in our case. But in some other case, they may start a new business unit or new kind of, let's say, depending upon the kind of business you are in, you can do different, I mean, you can get into a different company or different type of work in your ecosystem to be able to get more revenue, right? So that's something, these are some of the things you should definitely look at, you know.
Okay. We move to the next part. Misinformation, fake news, all of these from a political sense is there. But for an entrepreneur to make decisions, it has real business impact, real financial impact. So how have you personally navigated this signal versus noise?
So I think regarding the fake news, I mean, the role of fake news in for entrepreneurs, and how they should, how can they vaccinate themselves. I think, I mean, this is an era where there's information is abundant. So we are using all kinds of media to consume news, and I mean, news on TV has become entertainment, and entertainment on social media has become news or so-called news, and that gives rise to, I mean, the signal and noise. I mean, as they call it, the real signal and the noise. I mean, you will not be able to segregate signal from the noise. This is going to become challenging. But fortunately, I think if you are dealing with politics, if you're dealing with religion, I mean, I specifically mentioned because these two things make people emotion. They appeal to people's emotions. There's more fake news in these two than in the startup world or in the technology world. In technology world, what are you going to say? I mean, that I have a robot which can now kill you. I mean, which can cook for me. I mean, you can of course come up with these kind of things, but people will not pay attention, because at the end of the day, somebody has to deliver that in the market for it to make business sense. I mean, you can talk anything all day long. You can just say AI can do this now, AI can replace humans. But unless there is one that is available, commercially deployable, people are not going to pay much attention. And some fake news is there. So one thing I do is that even though I do get some news from social media channels, when it comes to technology, I do my thorough research. You know, I think, like, I mean, recently I was talking to some very big government official here in India, and I mentioned about something new that we had tried at Hartwell as our headquarters, something new, technology innovation for agriculture. He said, "Do you have a scientific paper?" And I really like that, because just because somebody tells you and somebody waves his hands and gives you some very big results, that guy is not going to take it. He wanted backing off a research paper to prove the point, which proves this point. And I think that's a very good way for us to look at any new thing that comes our way. Now, of course, whether Swiggy has now offered 2-minute delivery, you can just order and see whether it's happening or not, right? You don't need a research paper there. But if somebody tells you that this refrigerator can now not only keep your things hot too at the same time, you may say, well, show me some customer testimonials, or or give me a research paper, or just deploy it for free and I'll test it myself and then I'll buy it, right? I mean, there are ways to making sure. Same thing goes with any technology that you have around you. So I think that is kind of one way to authenticate. I mean, you need to come up with authentic sources. Like, when I consume political news, there are some sources that I subscribe to daily news, or political news. I look at those. Same way in technology, you always kind of rely on some publications which you know are authentic. There, the people are not going to publish themselves, and that is something that you can also follow.